back on the rack. Bela Lugos is dead, the bats have left the bell tower. The victims have been bled, red velvet lines, the black box. Bela Lugos is dead. Bela Lugos is dead. The virginal brides file past his tomb. Steward times their flowers bereft in deathly bloom. Alone in a darkened room, the Count
is something that has happened recently up in not too far from here in Milwaukee, and that is data centers. And data centers have been in the news a lot lately, whether it's about cryptocurrency or whatever the case may be. But you know, this case. It really has to do with AI and why it's important to be we need to be talking about this topic and and the reason is this. So in Port Washington, it was agreed upon the city council up there, their common council, to an $8 billion data center campus that essentially was on farmland, and it's very close to Lake Michigan. There's a little bit of a wetland ecosystem there as well. So they're actually going to build on top of that wetland, and they're actually going to create a tax increment district, a TID, and a Denver-based company called Vantage is the one building this data center and everything. So when Vantage paid for all this, you know, that they paid for the land, which was about $120 million. And the city's giving them like $8 billion for it as well. And just so they can just have essentially a data center. And a lot of people in Port Washington was fighting against this. They went to the common council meeting. They voiced all their opinions. And it's not just like 2 or 5 people. There were like multiple people who were fighting against us and everything. And we're talking about like 700 acres of land that they we're talking here, and there was even more land that Port Washington Council gave them some more land to have a total of 1,900 acres of land. So they have this 1,900 acres of land, and they're going to like fit somewhere between 560 600,000 to a little over 700,000 square feet of a data center campus. So it's not, it is part about, a company that's buying up land to provide, again, a housing facility for anyone to come in. And that's the other point is when these data centers build up, these data center campuses, most of them are just building housing units. And then some of them sell space so they can put servers in their mainframes into these data centers. So they're like leasing space. And for others, they're saying, no, it's going, this is the companies we work with, and this is what they're going to be housed in. And if any of you who have seen the show Silicon Valley, I think many of you would know the episode I might be referring to where they finally get, they talk to this server center, and it's just, and then the little, essentially, rack that they have for their product, and they're in like this thousands upon thousands square foot room, and they walk up and they say, okay, here you are, and that's just a small little slit in the mainframe. It's like, this is your space, and a lot of businesses are doing this. The cryptocurrencies are doing this, and now AI, which Port Washington is going to be housing an AI data center, which requires 1.3 gigawatts of electricity. So, like, what does that mean? So, if we put it in context, 1.3 gigawatts pretty much will take up 100 million LED light bulbs. Or even like another visual, it's more than half of the energy that's used at the Hoover Dam. And that's 1.3 gigawatts. And even if you go to, and again, that's a lot. That's a lot. 1.3. And by comparison, data centers use up, a lot of power from the electric grid. I mean, the United States alone uses 9% of the electrical grid. And if we compare it to like other nations, the United Kingdom uses 5%. Australia and New Zealand use about 4%. China only uses 2%. India uses 1%. Africa, the continent, uses 0.4%. And Brazil uses 0.2%. So the United States alone uses like 9% of the total power consumption. I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot of power to be used just for AI. Now, if we looked into like the Environmental and Energy Study Institute, which they primarily they do policy work, but they also educate people about different environmental and energy issues that are going on, particularly in the United States, in the advanced science-based climate solutions, and what the Study Institute has reported as of April of this year is that 56% of electricity is used to power data centers nationally, and that comes from fossil fuels. And as of today, as of March of last year, there are 5,426 data centers nationally. So just a little over 5,000 data centers are already established in the United States, taking up 56% of the electricity used to power these data centers. Now, like any other enterprise, they were saying, well, this is economic development. This is going to create jobs. This is going to help, with like in Port Washington's case, this is going to help us. This is gonna grow our city and everything. Well, again, as of 2023, 500,000 people are working in data centers. So, if we take that 500,000 figure, and we already know there are a little over 5,000 data centers nationally, that still leaves us like 100 people working at these 5,000 data centers. Even, and if you say, well, that's still jobs. Well, it's 100. I mean, it's still like 100 people that are going to be working at these data centers. Again, this is nationally. So we'll even say like the data center is going to be opening in 2029, by the way, in Port Washington. So even when the data centers open, and that's going to bring in jobs, the current population of Port Washington is what, 12,750 people? And you're only going to increase it by 100, so you're increasing from 12,750 to 12,850. Again, if they're going to be on trend, I mean that's not a lot, and this is true for anything else. If this was a Walmart distribution center, if this was an Amazon fulfillment center, if it was whatever the big thing is, and when someone says, well, it's going to bring in jobs, but we're talking, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000. Sure, I mean, that's bigger than zero. But when people hear that it's going to bring in jobs to lower the rate of those unemployed, you need a little bit more than just that in order to reach full employment in a city. Because that's what we ask for. We just ask for, can we get full employment, and really lower that unemployment number down as much as possible. And again, so when when we hear about these data centers that are bringing in jobs, and there's like a little over 5,000, and Wisconsin only has 47. Okay, and there are data centers in Kenosha and Milwaukee and Madison and the Green Bay, Appleton area, the Wausau area, the Eau Claire area, and Marshfield and Rapid Cities. Like, those are like the areas. Milwaukee has 21 of them. Of the 47, Madison has 11. Marshfield and Wausau only has like one. And we also have to remember like where these places are at. Again, as an urban geographer, who also looks at the economic side of it, where are these places at? Like in Kenosha, there's a lot of them. There's one near Lake Michigan, one not too far from Lake Michigan. That's the Microsoft Mount Pleasant data center down there. And there's two more Microsofts, one nearby. And so, they're drawing in water, whether it's a local aquifer or some sort of underground water system that's drawing in from Lake Michigan, or they have their own pipe that draws in water there. And some of them are trying, I understand, like some of them also are trying to be sustainable with solar power. Cool. But it also takes a lot of energy to create those solar panels, So even though when we think like even like sustainability that way, and we're trying to take a what's called a sustainable audit, the one in Port Washington, they say they're going to be sustainable by having solar powers. Okay, cool. So where are these solar powers coming from? Are they within the state? Is it near close by that's making them? Is it far away? Is it being made in Denver? Is it being made in Riverside, California? Is it being made out east somewhere, down south somewhere? Because that matters too. We're when we, that's we have the thing sustainable that way. It's not just okay. We're going to put solar panels on. We're going to be sustainable, but if they're being made, let's just say in Denver, Colorado, so they're being made there, and I'm willing to guess they're going to be on some sort of semi being delivered. So it's being made somewhere at a factory that's using fossil fuel to make this, on top of the transport that's using fossil fuel that's going from Denver, Colorado to Port Washington, Wisconsin. So at least those two big things are at least, taking up a lot of energy, and it's not creating sustainability, you know? So is like Vantage, again, who's based in Denver, going to make sure like it's a company that's also sustainable, that makes sustainable products. I mean, but these are things we got to think about here, you know? And the other big thing is cooling these data centers. Because I mean, if you haven't been in a data center, or what some even call like a server farm, they need to be cooled down significantly. Need to be cooled down. And when I say cool down, like it's almost not quite a walk-in like commercial freezer, but it's cool. Where you still have to wear a jacket, maybe another layer, just to walk through. And there's even people who get paid walking up and down the aisles just to make sure like no one's in there, or making sure the tech is still running. So all this water tries to help cool the servers and the processors. So a single data center uses 1,000,000 gallons of water a day. So it's, and this one in Port Washington it's going to be near Lake Michigan. So it's going to be drawing in water from there. Not too long ago, Microsoft, they put out their sustainability report, and they showed that in total water consumption, they increased it by 34% from their 2021 fiscal year to 2022 fiscal year. And in 2022, Google, their water consumption was 5.6 billion gallons. And that is projected to increase due to what some people are calling the AI revolution. Meta, that's run by Facebook and Instagram, they're bringing in, as of 2022, 1.2 billion gallons of water just for their data centers. So I mean, this is now a concern. There's many concerns on this level. First, I mean, we're talking one data center in Port Washington. There we go. That is very close to Lake Michigan, and the area that's in, it's farmland, and some of it's wetland. So we're taking away farmland. Yes, even though some of that farmland is corporate farmland, it's still agricultural land that at some point will feed people or use for other products. You're also taking away ecosystems like wetlands, which is the natural filter on this celestial rock that we call Earth. And the campus that's being built on, the campus in relative to the size of the area is more. The campus itself only takes up a fraction of the total area that is being given to Vantage at this point. And again, they're drawing in water from Lake Michigan and any aquifer that is on or nearby the data centers and everything. And this is a huge concern. This is, again, when you're consuming millions of gallons of water that is used for consumption for households and farms, is a huge concern. And again, if look at the geography of these data centers, just on the eastern side of the state alone, you have about 31 data centers that are right on Lake Michigan, or using a big aquifer, or using a lake, which Appleton is using, Lake Winnebago, just on the whole eastern side of the state alone. Should be concerned. We should be concerned about when we have data centers and server farms that come into our state, and we need to be asking these very critical questions that are affecting the natural environment that our state provides, asking the sustainable questions that need to be asked. And on top of that, we should not let local governments dismiss the voices that are being contested in an area that they know and love and want to keep thriving on. We just need to do that. So we need to keep fighting those good fights. See you next week.